You may be curious about how your financial situation stacks up against the norm. Do you find yourself financially ahead or behind? How do your income and expenses stack up against those of others? You may be shocked by some of these average person financial data. In fact, I expect these results to be somewhat surprising. Welcome back at Financial Fortune, your daily advisor that gives you news and tips for financial success. Just keep on watching. An estimated 34% of a typical family's budget goes toward housing costs. The United States Department of Labor and Statistics reports that this is the single biggest outlay for most households. This amounts to almost $190 monthly. Homeowners have to deal with escalating home prices, spiking mortgage rates, and escalating bills like insurance, taxes, utilities, and maintenance, while renters have to deal with rising rents and a lack of available rental properties. Overspending in either the rental or purchase market is problematic because of these characteristics. Housing expenditures can quickly eat up a person's salary, leaving little for other necessities like transportation. Staples such as food and water. If this is eating up a significant chunk of your salary, you will have a very difficult time getting ahead. According to the Bankrate, the typical monthly payment for a new car is $700, whereas the typical monthly payment for a used car is $525. To the average person, these figures may seem outlandish, and indeed, they are, yet most families aren't actually spending this much on a car payment alone. According to Value Penguin, behind housing, transportation is the family's second greatest monthly expense, at $819. Do you think that's unrealistically far off? When you factor in the cost of fuel, car insurance, repairs, and replacements, and so on, the total quickly adds up. While it makes sense for some people to treat themselves to a new vehicle, unfortunately many people give in to the temptation and treat themselves in this way regardless of whether or not they actually need a vehicle. The reality is that it will still spend the vast majority of its time sitting in your driveway. The median age of first-time homebuyers was higher than it had been in any previous year. Realtor.com reports that the median age of a buyer is 36, up from 33 a year ago. It is important to note that just though a first-time buyer has a down payment of 5% or less via one of the many available lending programs, it does not guarantee that they will be approved for a mortgage. Over the past few years, increased overall expenditures and other issues like limited supplies have contributed to price increases. Around $350,000 was the national average for a home in 2022. While the price of homeownership is rising, when taxes, insurance, and utilities are included in the monthly maintenance expense, it can easily equal the monthly mortgage payment, as reported by the Zebra. Not only are homebuyers perhaps more choosy than ever before, with fewer and fewer prepared to settle for properties with single bathrooms, fewer bedrooms, and outmoded kitchens, average home size has been continuously increasing over many decades, contributing to these higher prices. About $40,000 is the average amount owed by borrowers of federal student loans. The average borrower of a private student loan is approximately $55,000 in debt. According to these numbers, average student loan debt has tripled since 2007. About $38,000 or $55,000 in debt to finance a college education may not seem like much, but they can be devastating to a recent grad, as reported by educationdata.org. With all the various costs a recent college graduate is likely to incur, the low wages offered at the entry level of a given field won't go very far. To add salt to injury, many students didn't analyze the return on investment while choosing a degree, so they're now saddled with debt from tuition, books, and living expenses, plus the cost of a new automobile to replace the one they drove to school. Because of this, they are now saddled with the cost of an education that doesn't reflect their earnings. Every month, the typical American pays $1,203 to creditors. According to data compiled by LendingTree, this sum encompasses not only monthly payments on consumer loans like credit cards and auto payments, but also mortgage payments for homeowners. While this may not seem like a bad thing at first glance, keep in mind that not all respondents in this study own their own homes. Try to picture yourself getting home your after-tax income, having to pay over $1,200 in loan payments, and yet having to pay your expenses and save for the future. It's not just the fact that you'll end up paying a ton of interest to the bank or credit card company every month that makes making payments a bad idea. In addition to the fact that consumers have a tendency to overspend and buy things they do not need. When given the option of paying for things over time, this debt makes it extremely difficult to save for future expenses, meaning that you will be forced to borrow even more money when new expenses pop up. The average American spends $1,500 per month, or $18,000 per year, on discretionary purchases, according to a 2019 survey by the polling firm L2 and NBC News. When you think about how many individuals are having trouble making ends meet, that sounds like a lot of money, but they blame everything beyond their own spending habits on external causes. This sum consists of frivolous expenditures such as eating out, paying for recurring services, buying on impulse, etc. You should have your priorities in order, but it's also necessary to reward yourself for your efforts and aim toward financial stability. To rephrase, those who are willing to spend $1,500 on frivolous items should ensure they are making timely payments to themselves in order to keep their debt under control before making any payments to others. If someone is always moaning about being penniless, you could start to wonder if they're actually throwing away $1,500 every month. Individuals who are entering retirement age do not have millions stashed away. The amount is far lower than the typical retirement savings. The Federal Reserve found that the median income for people aged 55 to 64 was $134,000. Independently, those aged 65 to 74 had saved an average of $164,000. Considering the typical Social Security income is around $1,500 per month, these savings won't go very far. For example, a $200,000 nest egg will produce roughly $8,000 per year if employing a 4% safe withdrawal rate. Some retired individuals, especially those living in a two-income home, may be able to get by on just their Social Security benefits alone, but most will need to keep working, at least part-time. By setting aside even a modest amount from your paychecks, you can easily surpass these targets. The Bureau of Labor Statistics finds that the median salary for those ages 20 to 24 is just over $30,000. The median annual income for individuals aged 25 to 34 increased to $51,000, while that of those aged 35 to 44 increased to slightly over $60,000. The median annual income for those in the 45 to 54 age bracket peaked at $61,000 before, leveling off and declining slightly. If you live in a state with high costs of living and high taxes, a yearly income of $50,000 or $60,000 won't go very far. This may not seem like a lot of money, but in places with a low cost of living and low taxes, it may be more than enough to get by. Living alone makes it considerably more difficult to get by on a typical income, whereas having a roommate or spouse to split housing costs makes a tremendous difference for individuals who don't live alone. You may learn a lot about the ordinary person by looking at these figures, and you might come to the conclusion that many people could use some help. You don't need to be struggling financially all the time, yet you also don't have to be merely mediocre. With just a little bit of self-control and foresight, you can soar far above the pack. We'd love to hear your comments below about how do you compare money figures of each person. Thanks for tuning in here at Financial Fortune. Till our next video.